Hi guys, today I'm going to be scrapbooking this picture of my daughter's new fish, and I'm using the it's called Let Me Go, the Let Me Go kit from Scraptastic for the month of April, and I'm just picking out two watery colored papers here. The cardstock is from Basil, and then the striped paper is from Fancy Pants from the As You Wish collection. I just have a a glass cutting mat, I guess you'd call it. And I'm using the EK Success Curvy Cutter, and there's the logo for it if you're looking for it. It's Cutter Bee Curvy Cutter, and it is made by EK Success, and it's my favorite circle cutter. I've tried several circle cutters that were difficult to use, and I find this the easiest to use. So you do have to use a glass mat. It doesn't say so, and it doesn't come with one, and you do have to buy the cutter separate from the templates. So I'm going to show you the templates in a second here. You can get them in ovals, but I have them in circles. I don't have them in ovals, and that's what they look like. And you can cut a whole variety of different sizes of circles with that cutter, and so that's what I like to use. So I'm just writing down some of my ingredients there, and I have this circle that's cut, and I'm going to cut a little bit of it off. I'm making the stripes be diagonal instead of horizontal or vertical, and I'm cutting off about a third of it. I just had the photo of the fish there just so I could have a sense of how big the layers are going to be that go around that fish photo. And now I'm just going to use my sewing machine, which is already threaded with black thread, to go around the edges of this circle. And both the little piece and the big piece. And I find if I keep my finger as kind of still as the guide, you see how my right finger there was completely still the whole time, then the paper just kind of curves itself pretty easily. It was actually a lot easier to sew on that curve than I thought it would be, because I've tried to sew on small circles before and it was disastrous. So I'm glad that it's easier to sew on a big circle. I am using the grid lines on my work mat to figure out where I want to place this. Basically, I want the same amount of space on the top and on the bottom of the blue piece because I want them to both be in the same spots. So it's important that the first one is centered so that I can then center the second one. So I'm cutting that off, and now I have my background. So I'm taking a minute. I thought it might be funny where it says "adventure is out there," and some of the phrases in this kit are travel themed, and I thought it was a little bit kind of funny and ironic to put travel themed on a fish who is stuck in his poor little bowl. But I ended up not using any of those. But I thought it might be funny to use them, but I just ended up not. I still think it might have been funny to use them, and I would have liked to have, but it just didn't go in that direction. So then I'm cutting off these triangles, just thinking I might use them as a little bit of a banner somewhere in this half of the circle. I'm thinking about using that all of those things that are up there on the corner, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to use some of those puffy heart stickers too. I'm going to use some of these overlays that are from Studio Calico that came in the kit. I really like this one with circles because circles look like bubbles that are in a fish tank, so I wanted to make sure I got a chance to use some circles. Here I'm just using the wood grain printed background from a set of Fancy Pants. They're actually from the die cuts that came in the kit. And I'm just going to use this gray paper as a bit of a mat here, and that is from Pebbles from the Garden Party collection. And then this paper here is from Crepe Paper from the old Oh Darling collection. The other side of this is that really bold pink and cream chevron. And then this watercolor paper is also from Crepe Paper. It's from the, what is that called? The Style Board collection. I'm just cutting it such that, well, I'm actually tearing it such that it's mostly blue and there's a teensy weensy bit of pink hanging out at the bottom, and the fish has a bit of a pink look to him, so I wanted to bring in a tiny bit of pink into this layout, but it's mostly a monochromatic bluish greenish kind of tealy aqua kind of color scheme. So I had the word keep already taken out for the last layout that I used, and I ended up not using those letters. So I'm thinking I might want to make a layout that has the word keep, just because it's a lazy way to make a title. And then there's of course the quote from Finding Nemo that says just keep swimming. So that's what I'm going to make the title of this. So I took the Beanboard Alphas from Jelly Bean Soup, and I took them out I took out all the letters that would spell out keep swimming, and then I'm going to use some tiny letter stickers from Fancy Pants that came in the kit to spell out the word just. So I'm just putting those on some wax paper so I can play around with where they're going to go, even though I'm pretty sure they're going to go right there. So I'm just using this tiny little heart-shaped tray that my mom gave me to keep my letters in so they don't get lost anywhere, because there's some little tiny dots and stuff for the eyes. And I'm going to glue down these layers from the top bottom, which is my way of doing it so I don't forget where anything goes. So there we go. Just going to show you that a little bit. And it looks a little bit too boring to me, so I'm going to use some pop dots to add a little bit of dimension. That will just make the top layers stand out a little bit from the bottom layers and create a bit of a shadow. There we go. So I'm going to put something over on that left-hand side as well. That's where my journaling is going to go, but I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with it. So I just put that piece of paper there because I know I'm going to use some of the same papers, and that was just sitting there in that size and shape, so I thought I'd use it. Now this is a tab sticker from the Fancy Pants letter set, and I like that it's pink. It picks up on some of the colors in the fish's body, and yeah, so I'm going to try to sew on it, which is problematic because it's sticky everywhere. The sticker is sticky and it doesn't have anything below it, so it's actually sticking to my sewing machine, not really all that surprisingly. And then unrelated to that, something happened with my bobbin, or maybe it was related, but it didn't seem to be related to that. So I had to just kind of rethread my bobbin for a second there. And what I did was I'm going to end up pulling off some layers here instead of trying to pull back things and sew only only through part of the layers. I removed the back layer, and I also added some wax paper to the sticky part so that it would flow smoothly through my sewing machine, which gives me a huge big ugly mess on the back side that I have to trim up so that you can't see it. Whew, this is messy stuff. I would not suggest that you sew on your layers after you've layered them. You should probably sew on them before you layer them. Lesson learned. But anyways, I was able to take everything apart fairly easily and put everything back fairly easily, so that wasn't a big deal. Just adding some more tabs here. I am not going to dare sew on them because that was too much of a pain, and plus you're not going to be able to see them anyways. So I'm going to use this this tag, but I'm going to use it this way instead. So I'm just going to put some adhesive on it and slide it up in there, and while I'm at it I'm just going to put some more adhesive to hold the top layers down. And I'm really liking how this cluster is looking, so I need to start thinking about the other cluster now. So I'm just taking some smaller pieces of some of the same papers that show up in the right hand cluster, and I'm going to put them over here on the left. I'm having them hang off as I'm composing this bunch of papers just so that it looks more natural when I go to cut it. So again, I'm taking a little bit more of that wood grain from the packaging from Fancy Pants, and I'm looking right now for the piece of overlay. There it is, the tiny little piece that I cut off of the other piece. And I'm going to use this gray paper again, so I think every piece I think every single piece that's in the layers over to the right end up showing up in the layers to the left. So now I'm going to do my title, and I'm just kind of putting it out for placement first. And as it is right now, that G is going to be hanging off the layers too much, and it's going to be hard to adhere it to the paper. So as I put these letters down, I'm going to squish them together so that they overlap a little bit so that the G won't hang over quite so much. First, I have to bring these top two layers down a little bit just so that there's no space between the photo and the title, because I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to overlap ever so slightly some of these letters so that the G will end up landing on the layers instead of beside the layers. And I'm using my glossy accents, which I'm just putting a teensy weensy weensy little bit. If you put too much, it'll squirt out when you squeeze down, and you don't want any oozing out of the edges. So even though it's clear, it's shiny, and so you don't really want it catching the light. So even though I've got plenty of space here for the word keep, I'm going to overlap the letters anyways, just so that it looks like it matches with the bottom word. So I'm not going to overlap it quite as much, but I am going to make sure that different parts do touch each other. And now I'm just going to put the letters for the word just. So there, my title is now finished. Just keep swimming. So now I have another little bundle of papers that I need to stick together. I'm going to use those flags right there, I think. Oh, I'm going to put them in already. I thought I did those at the end. And I just slid the toothpicks down underneath the photo, and sorry, I'm blocking it there. What I'm doing is I'm just sticking a little pop dot under the back flag so it would stick better. And then there was a bit of that wax paper that I used for my sewing machine, and I had to cut it out because it was sticking out a little bit and looked a little bit funny. So now I'm thinking about using that for journaling, but there was no space to journal on it, and so I'm just kind of thinking about what am I going to journal on? And then there was some plain paper on the background of that matte paper. Then I thought about maybe cutting the cream parts out of that chevron and using them as journaling strips. But ultimately I decided I am just going to typewrite on this blue paper, and there's the typing. Through the magic of video, it's all done for you. And it's a little wonky, but that's just because I've got a really old-fashioned typewriter and I don't want to fuss with it too much, so I just take whatever it gives me. I don't care if it's even or lined up or anything. So I'm trying to decide, are these going to be offset or are they going to be the same? And I've decided I'm going to center them in the circles, just so that, because that's the easiest way to do it, is to just center them. So I used my grid paper to make sure that they were lining up with the same number of squares above and below, and I'll do the same right here. I just put my glue so that it was catching a little bit of the string, so that string actually makes another little S. It kind of mimics the S from the word swimming. I'm going to put a couple of puffy hearts here. I love those puffy hearts from Dear Lizzie. And I thought about, again, using that as a little bit of a joke, but I'm not gonna. It would have looked okay over on the side there, but it hung off too much and you wouldn't be able to read the phrase, and so it wouldn't be funny anymore if you couldn't read it. I was going to put that up there, but it's off balance, so I'm going to move it in a second. You'll see me move it. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And so it balances off the dark elements in those two flags that are up top. Then there's a dark element on the bottom on the other side. And I'm just thinking about if there are any last minute embellishments that I want to add. It doesn't have a whole lot of embellishments, but I'm going to leave it like that because I kind of like it without without so much embellishment. So I'm showing you a little bit of a close-up now, but I do have a tiny bit more to do. I haven't done my splatter yet, and I think splatter on this layout, because it's about fish and splatter looks a lot like, you know, dribbles of water or bubbles of water. I really want to do splatter on this one. I just forgot, so I was, I was just showing you the close-ups. And I really like how all the layers work on this one. I think it looks pretty cute. And then there's the layers on the other side. They're a different order, but they're pretty much the same layers. And there's the typing, and you'll see that it's pretty wonky, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. And now I'm back to fast forward again because I'm going to do some splattering. I just got to tidy up a little bit before I put my box down. So I'm going to take my giant cake box and set it up so that it masks the area around me, and I'm going to use my samples here to pick which colors of splatter I want. This first one is water cooler, and which is a kind of a bluey green. And then the next one is mint julep, which is almost exactly the same color. It's just a little bit more green, and it sprinkles a lot more. And then I have silver from Mr. Huey's also. So all three are from Mr. Huey's. And I just used some photo paper to mask my photos and my journaling. And I'm just using a piece of paper towel to blot where the sprinkles hit the cardstock, because it doesn't absorb quite as quickly or dry quite as quickly. And so now here are the close-ups, and I really do like it with the splatter. It makes a big difference. I kind of wished I had masked off all of the cardstock so that there wouldn't be any sprinkles at all on the cardstock. I think it would look cool if the sprinkles were just limited to the circles. But I didn't think to do that, so it is what it is, and I still really like it, even though it does have some stray sprinkles over here and there. I really like how the different size splotches look on this layout. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have a really great week. I have another process video coming up that will be live later on this week, so make sure you watch for that, and have a great scrappy week.